visiting cards, they write about it. But in today's world, when we see things have become very modern, they have upgraded. So you need to have a website also where people they can write about your things, and immediately I think instantly the company should make changes accordingly. As far as the feedback in the exhibition goes, it goes max to max about the staff who are there and about the product they have displayed on. So if you can make changes about those things, that's very good about the company. And the feedback is important in the sense because exhibition, trade fair, all these things are part of public relations, which is an extended part of marketing. So when we are participating in a trade show, we are giving support to the marketing plans of the company for that particular financial year and for the coming financial years also. So the feedback we get, they are actually honest and genuine feedbacks, and the company should go and follow whatever feedback you get, whether it's negative feedback or positive. Positive feedback obviously boosts your morale, but negative feedback is an exercise given to you to improve on your weaker points. So companies should follow the feedbacks.
As you mentioned that this is quite an important activity in public relation arena, and we should use this tool often. So how often a company can organize a public relation activity like this, trade fair and trade shows?
Kancha, and this all depends on the budget of the company. So like the company I was working with, one of the companies, they were very much actively involved in these kind of trade shows, exhibitions and all. So they would set their budget in the month of February. And it's with every organization, the trade companies, they let the people know beforehand. So they set their budget in the month of February and March. So when 1st April onwards, they have an ample budget for their conferences, trade shows and exhibitions. And accordingly, they participate in national, regional, international shows also. And they have the staff, especially who are there to organize, design their stands, design the exhibitions. They have to get their literature printed also. They have to look after the logistics of the staff, the people. So it all depends on the budget of the company. The good companies, they start with smaller budget, but later on when they see the importance of these shows, they increase their budget. And I think it's very important to be seen, because it's important, that people, the footfall, the coming in, the people coming in, the actual people for whom you advertise on TV, they're actually there to see your products, to meet you, to see your ideas, how you display. So it's important for any company, whatever said and done, every company wants to participate in these kind of shows.
Well, as you mentioned that trade fairs and trade shows are very, very integral part of public relation activity and for product launch or kind of interaction or introduction of the product or services. So now suppose if I want to organize a trade show in 22, so when should I start preparation for this seriously? So that when the launch of trade fair is done, it is good, seamless, and we can get more footfalls and mindshare.
Okay, suppose if you want to participate in a trade show, you should plan for next year, which is 2022. And you should make your preparations now onwards. Doing the research work, you should have a research team doing the research work just to see which kind of show your organization fits into. You should have proper team who do the research work, and you should, at present, any trade show which is going on, you should visit them, see how people they design their stand, and you can find out the nuisances while visiting the trade shows, so that when you actually participate, you give best of your the best of your organization. You display best of your aspects to the people, to the public. So it is always good to advance 1 year in ahead. You have your financial issues to be settled into. You have your team, to which team you need to have. Then logistics. All these things are very important. And you should know designing part, briefing part, and you should also be in touch with the media people that you invite them to their stand so that they, when they go back, they write about you also. So the media handling, the staffing, the briefing, the printing part, what you exactly would give out to the people who visit to your show, you hand over your souvenirs or your brochures. So the language, the color scheme, everything. So it takes 1 year time. And when companies, they do these work, the ones who become very professional, they're always ready to participate in any kind of exhibition. They're always ready because they have proper department which is always doing these kind of work. So randomly, if they have to participate in any kind of exhibition, they are ready with everything.
Well, I think based on your our discussion today, I think exhibition is very, very critical and integral part of any public relation activity. So as usual, Ritu, I am so pleased to talk to you regarding exhibition and trade fairs today. So we'll be meeting again with some thought-provoking idea of public relation. Till then, bye-bye and take care.
Hello friends, this is Akulmach live and I'm Chandrakant, and today is Friday and we thought we will have a little bit of fun. And when we talk about fun, I think we are trying to see, understand the common problem that all of us have, that is honking, and what this honking tells about your personality. To discuss this, I will be joined by my good friend from UK, Mr. Naval Gund. So I will take a short break. We'll join you back along with my guest. Don't go anywhere. Hey Naval, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, CK. Good morning, everybody. Beep, beep. Beep, beep. Have you heard that today already? I have, and I haven't even been in the car. I've heard it from my study, where people just put their hand on the honk or their foot on the honk or whatever it is. So today we're going to be talking about being a happy honker. CK, are you a happy honker?
Come on, Naval, I'm an Indian. I love to honk. Honking is in my blood. I like to honk for no reason.
Well, the thing is, there is a reason. And well, I don't think we're going to talk about the reasons today. But the thing about it is, when you look at people that do, press the horn, because it's a warning system. That's what it's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be telling people around you to wake up, or have a look at what's going on, because you may have missed it. So it's being a friend to other people. I mean, that's the starting point of this. It's that being aware, helping others be aware. Something's happening, you've seen it, maybe the other person hasn't seen it. Does that make sense, CK? It's an early warning system?
Well, technically it is an early warning system, but we honk for no reason. I've seen people on the signal and their thumb is always pressing after every 5 seconds, pee, 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 for no reason. They are so desperate to get out, and they want to, so desperate to ask the driver in the front to get out of the way immediately, just get out, I need to go straight, and the light is still red, they keep honking. So I think what you said technically is right, but when it comes to practice, it is not so right, Neville.
Well, right or wrong, people honk. And I have noticed that the way people honk these days is changing quite a lot, really. Certainly in India, when I was out there, it was almost like it is part of your right. It's in the statute books. If you don't honk, there's something wrong with you. From little motorbikes that are out there that sound like Roadrunner, meep, 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 to the real big, horns that come with these huge lorries. Get out of the way, It's a bit like a train's coming through, or you haven't seen me. What on earth are you doing? But I wanted to have a little experiment, CK. Are you up for an experiment?
Yes, I'm your guinea pig, Neville. Shoot it.
Well, you're my honking guinea pig. I did a little experiment a few years ago, and I do this from time to time, whenever I'm bored, really. I was in traffic. Doesn't matter where I was. It was in Asia, that part of the world, and we were in some serious traffic. And all you could hear was honking. Can you just imagine, everyone going beep, beep, honk, honk, and the thing is, it was going on for so long, it was quite clear that some of these batteries were going to run down because, a lot of the vehicles on the road in that particular area are not particularly well maintained. And you could just hear that as over time, it must have been 20 minutes, maybe twice as long as that, maybe 40 minutes. And you could actually hear some of the noises be muted. You know what it's like when a battery starts to run down, CK? And so I said to the driver, let's just have a bit of fun here. And the driver was up for it. I said, do you know any popular music that you could, play out on your horn? And he said, I've done this with my children. It was a foreign language, so I had an interpreter. I've done this with my children before, and we've had a bit of fun. I said, okay, well, let's have a bit of fun now. So he just started to play a tune on his car horn. And it was really quite amazing because as the tune became more repetitive, the people around our car sort of started to look over into the vehicle I'm hearing something that's got a melody now. It's not a me, 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 me. It's got some form of melody. And what happened was they stopped beeping their car. They took their hand off the horn. And more people were looking round. And the driver was having so much fun. He was adding the drums to it as well, bashing away on the steering wheel and hitting the horn. So he was having a whale of a time. So he was almost like a busker, a one-man band in his car with just this one horn, which had one tone. And then what we noticed, after 2 or 3 minutes, other people started to join in with the same tune. So it was almost like there was an orchestra playing in that one area. And of course, as lots more people join in, the noise goes up. And it was deadening out all of this other honking that was going on. Now, we didn't get out of the car and walk, a quarter of a mile up the road to find out if anyone else had started in. But the fact of life is everyone started to have a bit of fun. And they were smiling and laughing, and all the angst and aggravation about being stuck in traffic had been taken away. So have you ever done that in the car, CK? I've done it many times with the kids and they love it. Have you ever done that in the car with your kids?
No, Neville, I have not done this. Because in India, what you get is you have a horn in the front, and you also have horn with connected to the reverse gear. So there are all kinds of melodies, you keep hearing, and these reverse gear horns are very melodious. It will play some famous Hindi movie song, and so some states have banned these reverse horns, but then There are 29 states, 1.3 billion Indians. You can't stop everyone. So honking is a big part of our culture, I think.
Honking is a culture. Yes, I've heard all of these. Be careful. This vehicle is reversing. This vehicle is reversing. Beep, beep. This vehicle is reversing. I mean, we get them all the time, really. And again, it's just a reminder that these are warning systems. These are warning systems. But if you're going to be stuck in traffic in future, just have a little bit of fun. You know, if you really do feel as though you should be beeping away, then beep away to a tune and just see what happens to the people around you. I mean, I'm regularly, you know, when I'm stuck in traffic, I don't beep away, but I'll have my music on. And if a particular song comes on where there's drums or trombone or trumpets or what have you, I'll be bashing away on the steering wheel. And I'm sure, you know, many other people look over and think, whatever he's doing, we need to be away from him. So it's probably a good way to get people to get out of the way. But the point about today is be a happy honker. You know, because most people I see in vehicles where they've got the hand on the horn, it is this red lights ahead. I mean, you can't go anywhere, but they're taking frustration out on it, and you can see this sort of anger in their faces. But let's try and turn that today, just for a Friday. Let's turn that on its head and become a happy honker. What do you think? Can we run a competition of people that can literally on their phone record themselves honking away when they're stuck in traffic? And let's see if we can guess the tune.
Well, that's a very good idea. In fact, this session is live, and people who are watching, they can actually submit their clips if they have. Otherwise, they can submit it later. I think it will be very interesting for involvement of people. And I think most of the people are honking. I think they're used to honking. I'm sure there are a lot of motor mouth kind of videos people would have. They can submit it here and we can have a little bit of fun. But I think you made a very important point. I think on a serious note, when you see people honking, what it tells about their personality, I think that is something also is important, because people honk in a different way. Sometimes it's frustration, sometimes for no reason, as I said, and sometimes for actually sending a warning signal. So, you know, what do you think? You know, different people, can you, put them in certain spreadsheet based on how they honk about their personality? What do you think, Neville?
Well, I'm sure people will try to do that. I think what we can find out, we certainly will know someone's personality if they really do put their hand on the horn and don't take it off. But the fact of life is, if you're stuck in traffic, if there's a red light in front of you, guess what? I really would like to go. I would like to move forward. So anyone around me, if you're honking me to get out of the way, the real bad news is I have no choice. I have to wait for that light to change. I've been there many times this week, actually. This is the summer season of roadworks we have in the UK. Because it's good weather, and I say that very jokingly, because we've had thunderstorms and goodness knows what else over the last few weeks. But because it's good weather, there's lots of construction activity on the roads. And just locally, we've got temporary traffic lights. And the worst thing about temporary traffic lights is you don't know that they're going to be there. There's no advance warning. All of a sudden, you just see this traffic light on a road that normally you're traveling along, and there's literally no speed limits. Well, no real speed limits. You know, you're going along at the usual 30 or 40 mile an hour, depending upon what the local requirements are. But on my road, it's a 30 mile an hour road. And you just don't expect to see a traffic light in front of you. Anyway, the traffic lights were there, and regularly, you know, even when I'm in the car or I take a walk around the corner every now and again, I will see people beep the person in front because they hadn't noticed the lights changed. And some people are so fast at getting on that honk. You know, our lights go from red, red, amber, and then green. So the red amber is green's coming, you know. But as soon as sometimes the red amber goes, I hear people get on the horn. You know, in other words, wake up in front. You know, it's about time you're moving. I'm a very important person. I need to be somewhere. You know, get out of my way. I've paid my taxes. I've paid my road tax. I need to be on my way. And that's the reality of what we've got here. So you can sort of extrapolate someone's personality by their horn behavior. So why not have everyone being a happy horner or a happy honker, as they say, or as we've just decided to call it, the new hashtag. Are you a happy honker? And then what we can actually find out is that everyone's happy. But the reality of life is they won't be. But, you know, what do you think, CK? Can we have happy honker trending just from this little fun on Friday?
I think we can have a happy honker trending because anyway nobody's driving nowadays, so we can do that. Otherwise it's quite annoying, you know. Keep hearing honking all the time is quite annoying, and the more you honk, that means more desperate you are, and that is the one trait that you get, you know. The person who's more desperate will honk more. And one more thing, Neville, even though it's a funny episode we are doing today, but I think honking will lead to road rage, because if the honking does not yield result as desired by the driver, the next step is basically he gets out of the car and gets into a rage kind of a situation. So I think we need to stop honking. While the episode name is Happy Honking, but I think we can talk about it during lockdown and we are all stuck in our homes, because anyway nobody is driving. I think we should come out with a different kind of honking system, because it's a time for AI where the vehicles can be connected using some signaling process, and without making any noise you can just press the honk and the nearby cars can beep some light that there is some warning or stuff like that. So I think there is a time for innovation and we can get out of this usual honking, because I think this is medieval from our standard, you know. People were doing honking 100 years back, we are still honking. So I think we need to move forward from there and do something about it. Don't you think so?
Well, I love the trip into technology. I'm sure there's someone listening that's got an app in mind, you know. Perhaps you can create a happy honking app. There you go. There's a challenge for you. Any young person out there that fancies a bit of fun on a Friday, and send it to us and we'll push it round. Because like anything else, just as you were speaking, I could hear someone honking in the background. So, you know, whether it's your end or my end, it's actually getting through the airwaves. And it's traveled several thousand miles between me and you. So, let's just have a little bit of fun today. Let's see if we can change the mood of a nation. You know, if you're stuck in traffic, you don't want to be stuck in traffic. The people that have designed the roads don't want you stuck in traffic. You know, they've designed the roads actually to make traffic flow freely so that you can get to your destination in a comfortable way, so that you're unflustered, you don't get angry, you don't get annoyed. The last thing they want is a very angry driver. You know, when we're on the road, we all need to be friends to everybody. You know, give people the right of way if they've got it, and don't take any silly moves. You know, don't move from one lane to the next and become that road rager that people don't like. So, bit of fun today. For all of those that are listening, it's hashtag happy honking or hashtag happy honker. So are you a happy honker, CK?
Actually, I can say I'm a happy honker as long as my honk is melodious. So I think I'm going to try this idea which you gave us today, which is, you know, train your thumbs to press the horn in such a way it comes out like a Mozart.
Well, it's actually funny because as we speak, I've just had a text in from someone who's watching BBC News, and they've got the cricket on, and in the background you can hear people hooting away. It's at Lord's, you know, the home of cricket in the UK, And apparently someone yesterday was sitting in traffic outside, probably a taxi driver, and they were honking the music to the introduction to cricket over here, which is okay. So there's the rendition that they did yesterday. I didn't know about that, but it's a friend of mine that's just literally texted me because he's listening in. So we can all have a little bit of fun. You know, no one wants to be stuck in traffic, let's face it. But you can take your temperature down, take your pressure down, and utilize these ears, or what's in between these ears, for a little bit more fun. And yet again, I hear a little beep in the background. So there you go. Happy Honking Day to everybody. It's now official. This is Happy Honking Day.
I think we can end our discussion on this positive note, Neville. And thank you so much for finding time and joining us to make our show very hilarious and also meaningful at the same time. We will catch up with you next week at same time on some other interesting subject. Have a nice weekend, Neville.
And everybody else, enjoy today. Take the frustration out of driving and just relax. Have a little bit of fun when you're stuck. Take care.
Welcome to Akulmach Live, friends. This is Chandrakant. The greatest news today is India has struck silver, the first medal at Tokyo Olympic. This feat has been carried out by Mirabai Channu. She hails from Manipur. This requires a little bit of analysis. Before I start my discussion, I have to tell you that you can now get connected with our channel instantly. All you have to do is point your mobile phone camera on this QR code right here, and you will get connected with us. Friends, don't go anywhere. I'll be back after a short break. Welcome back, friends. The question that we are asking is why Manipur is churning out world-class weightlifters. And this is not the first time. When one of India's greatest movement in weightlifting was being hoisted into reality by the legendary Karna Maleshwari at the Sydney Games in 2000, the state of Manipur was laying the ground of their own movement in the sun. Barring the Beijing Games, the state has sent 4 different women weightlifters over 5 Olympics, a generational effort that culminated in Mirabai Saikom Channu's monstrous 202 kgs combined lift for the Tokyo Olympic silver medal. She competed in 49 kg weightlifting category. 2 decades of consistently churning out weightlifters that are among the best in the world is Manipur's reminder that the Olympics are not a once in a 4-year event, but a way of life. A way of life that begins at young age because of the state's unique way of organized sports for young children through clubs. The sports club culture has been part of Manipur for centuries now. These clubs might not be necessarily be dedicated to a single sport. These clubs aren't associated with any state or national association. They are only present because of the love of sport and an outlet of activities for young kids. For a Manipuri child, there is an option other than studying, and that is to play. In Manipur, children are afforded the opportunity to decide what sports to play and what sports to pick up. By the time they reach their teens, they may not be specialists in a particular sport, but a consistent level of physical activity lead to a far easier transition than most young athletes when moving professionally into a discipline. As has been the case for the state of for the centuries, a steady stream of women weightlifters heading to the farthest corners of the globe to compete in the best tournaments on offer continues to fuel the desire for what is a casual aspect of life to become the center point of their existence. In the beginning of the 90s, people started to realize that sports could be an earning profession. The opening of the Sports Authority of India Center in Amphoe suddenly gave weightlifter in the state the opportunity to go from spare parts of automobiles as weights to real imported equipments. The former weightlifters were also the part of change as their career transitioned from athletes to coaches. Mirabai Channu's story trudges around the same lines. A young 12-year-old child lifting heavy logs in her hometown of Nongpok, Kakching, 44 kilometers away from Imphal, who one day got noticed by Anita Channu, a former international weightlifter and a coach. What she saw in Channu as a young child, Channu was something most Manipuri experts in sports says it is an intrinsic part of their culture identity. She had a killer instinct and explosive strength. People from the northeastern states of India are smaller in height but make up for it with a player like Maradona or Messi, that is low center of gravity, which is very crucial, especially when it comes to sports like weightlifting or football or boxing. The low center of gravity saw Mirabai pick up almost 4 times her body weight across 5 successful lifts in a snatch and clean and jerk categories. But it isn't just the height or body type or the region that defines their ability. The secret also lies in what is put in their bodies, or rather what has been into their bodies for generations. There is certainly something in the land. Most athletes in the lower weight category come from the Asian countries like China or South Korea, and these countries are famous for sticky rice being part of their staple diet. In Manipur too, most of the people eat rice as a primary source of energy as well. This simplistic way of nutrition, one that has been a generational staple for them, is considered a prime source of fuel by experts for essential carbohydrate that end up aiding in physical training. These carbohydrates do the twin job of easy to digest while pushing the body to recover faster after intense workout. It is the combination of the right kind of food, air, and the culture of the land, the generation of women to look up into weightlifting that brewed itself into the perfect storm, and hence we have Medicom, and now we have another gold medalist from the same state of Manipur. Hip Pure India, Hip Pure Manipur, Hip Pure Northeast. Hello friends, welcome to Akulmach Live. My name is Chandrakant. Today in Doctor Speak, we will talk about a very deadly disease called typhoid, and it gives a lot of fever, very high fever usually when you contract typhoid, and many times people are not aware of simple things that you can do to provide solace to the patient and reduce the threat of typhoid. So before we start our discussion today, a word on our giveaway. Akulmach works with many SMEs and startups world over, helping them in not only building their sales and marketing teams, but also help them in improving their success rate. As you can see, we have summarized our years of knowledge into these easy to follow steps, which can be used by any smart leader to promote their group or a company. In order to encourage people to take the right step at the right time, we have used this proprietary graph in our corporate memorabilia so that the knowledge can be accessed by whoever, whenever, wherever it is needed. You can become eligible to get one of these beautiful gifts delivered to your doorstep for free. All you need to do is to subscribe our channel and smash that like button. Also, please watch this entire video and provide your valuable comments, suggestions, or you could also share your experiences. Person with the best comment and interaction would be chosen to become a free recipient of one of these displayed items here. In addition, we would invite you to Akulmach Live to participate in our show as a distinguished panelist. What are you waiting for, friends? Go for it. Now, let's get back to our discussion. Friends, today we want to discuss about typhoid, and let me introduce our guest. She's joining from Shimla. Her name is Dr. Pooja Bedi. So without further ado, let me introduce Dr. Pooja to you.
Greetings, CK. I hope you're doing all fine. Thank you so much for the generous introduction.
Everything well, and I think our viewers and myself would like to know more about typhoid. And I think it's a very scary type of disease, and whenever there is a typhoid, people get scared. So I think you can clarify some of these doubts today.
Yes, CK. Absolutely. It is a scary disease if it is not catered timely, for sure. But if it is catered timely with the right uh, kind of treatment, it is not that scary as well. But typhoid, as we all know, it normally comes whenever the weather changes there from the uh, winters to summer patch. But it is not because of the weather change, it's because of the unhygienic habits that we tend to follow, and it leads to the typhoid fever itself. So, typhoid is basically a bacterial disorder or a disease which is caused by Salmonella typhi, which is one of the serotype of the Salmonella enterica bacteria. So, it has got different serotypes and they tend to affect the liver very, very dramatically. So, typhoid is one of the manifestation in which the Salmonella typhi, to be on a very, very understandable note, that it is a bacterial disease. It is caused by the Salmonella typhi, and it usually comes or is caused only because of one reason, that is the unhygiene that we tend to follow. So the typhoid can actually spread by the oral fecal route, that we are pretty much aware of. That in case there are some kind of already pre-existing bacteria of the Salmonella which are present in the food, and if the unhygienic habits are followed, like for example, not washing the hands before preparing the meals or the food, you can say, so it tends to travel from one individual to the another. And it can happen, CK, the individual who is actually a carrier can be a chronic carrier. So he or she might not be having the clear cut indicators for the typhoid, but they become a good mode of transmission for the other humans. So it is very important to follow the very, very clear cut hygienic guidelines, especially considering the COVID pandemic that is going on right now. So it is the fecal oral route that is the main one of the main reasons why it spreads. Contaminated water that we tend to drink from any of the sources, specifically golgappas. During this particular season, summer, it is relished a lot. But please consider the COVID pandemic and the typhoid also. It tends to affect the gut system of the human dramatically. So it can lead to, if we come to sign and symptoms, it leads to very high fever, but it's not that it happens abruptly. There's a slight fever that comes, and gradually it increases to a very high temperature. So normally the fever that we speak about in typhoid is the step ladder fever. Now, if we look at a ladder, there is a slight rises there, then it tends to stay there for some time, and then again the slight rises there. Same is there with the typhoid. Unlike the other fever that comes during this particular season. So this is a very clear cut indicator that it can be because of the typhoid. So there's a step ladder, slight gradual rise of the fever is noticed in the individual, along with other symptoms like headache, profuse diarrheal disorders can also come up along with it. And in some cases, it has been seen that the constipation tends to happen. But since the diarrhea is more remarked in such cases, so we say that the fever, diarrhea, colic in the abdomen, headache, if somebody tends to feel the weakness, lethargy, there are dramatic changes in the diet also, in the appetite level. So these are the clear cut indicators that the individual is having the typhoid fever. But uh, there are some cases, as you correctly mentioned, it can actually become a very, very severe disease in itself. So we have to be very clear about whenever the fever starts, and just observe it for 2 to 3 days. If it is accompanied by all the signs and symptoms I just shared with you, then it is a time when you should ideally be seeing the doctor. It's very important to see the doctor on time, to get the treatment on time, and follow the protocol, especially hygiene factors for sure, and the diet also, because one tends to undergo tremendous weight loss in typhoid as well. So it's very important and crucial to focus on the diet. So these are some of the signs and symptoms which can lead to severe, uh, you can say later on, results if not catered properly, right on time with right kind of treatment. There's one more aspect, CK, I would like to add that we all are aware that antibiotics is usually given to treat the typhoid. But there is one more thing that we should, in fact, couple of things we should be very precise about. First is the kind of the diet we are taking if somebody is diagnosed with typhoid. So the first part is I basically divide the food into two different categories. First is to maintain the hygiene, the kind of hygiene we tend to maintain for the kind of the food we cook at home. So, considering the pandemic that is going on, I personally suggest to soak your vegetables and fruit for 30 odd minutes in, you can say, filtered or RO water. And after that, you can, wash it. So, pre soaking of vegetables and fruits is very much required to take out all the bacteria and you can say to extent of some other pathogens as well. And then you wash it and then you can just cook it nicely. So, avoid as much raw food as you can. It is very important. It's difficult for the body also to digest, and it can definitely contain any amount of pathogens. So, do not neglect the hygiene factors that are to be followed. So, this is the first thing about the food, and the second, this is the preparation part of the food and the kind of food we should be taking. So, I highly recommend to go for the moong dal. I am just considering the Indian population and the kind of food we usually take every day. So, moong dal is one of the best. Uh, can say source of instant energy for people having the typhoid. They can have mild chicken soups, and they need to have a high calorie diet. With high calorie diet, I don't mean to take on, chocolates or on all this stuff. Better replace them with honey. Go on a high carb diet as well. There has to be a minimal intake of the fat. As such, the liver tends to suffer in typhoid, so we can't overexert it with add-on of food products like that are rich in fat. So try to avoid fat, try to avoid chili, and if somebody is a tea or coffee drinker, I recommend them to, if they can just lower their intake, since it's a habit, we can't avoid it. So if they can lower the intake. So more of moong dal soup, more of veggies, more of fruits that are rich in fluids. Why this is a big question, because in typhoid we tend to lose the uh, you can say fluid level of the body. It has to be replenished with the high and a good and a very smart way of fluid intake or the hydration we tend to take. So sipping water every time will not help to compensate for the fluid that we tend to lose, or you can say a solution for the dehydration. The better thing is to take the lemonades, take the buttermilk or lassi that it's very apt for the season. Curd one can have. Fruits that are rich in water content like watermelon. It's a seasonal fruit. So these kind of replacement of the fluid, or you can say hydration components for the body, are much better than what we tend to take it otherwise. So I had a couple of days back, I had a case, CK, of the typhoid fever. So the person asked me, can I take the energy drinks? So, so this is what I'm highlighting this point. Please don't go for the synthetic form of the hydration. Go for the more organic or the season friendly hydration tips that I've just cited with you. Go for that. And hygiene, definitely. Please wash your hands as frequently as you can, specifically during this COVID and the typhoid season that is about to come. So wash hands, take bath every day, be on a very good light diet, which is less in fat, and avoid food from the market for sure. That is the first recommendation. Again, the COVID also. But considering the typhoid can actually turn out to be a very severe kind of disease, and it can end somebody's life very easily in just couple of weeks span. So it's very important to have uh, food from the home. There's one tip for people who tend to travel. Now, considering COVID, since not much of the traveling is there, but whenever the people are traveling, try to carry your own bottle of buttermilk, or you can say lemonade or water, or washed fruits that you have done at your home. So all these recommended things are uh, there from my end. So be very precise with the hygiene. That is one of the mantra for to cater for typhoid.
Well, I think, Doctor, you have explained the whole thing in a very nice way. I think you have emphasized the importance of being hygiene, being hygienic. Wash your hands and regularly, make sure that you're eating the right kind of food and things like that. However, I have one question, which is. Usually typhoid comes through what? Is it a waterborne disease? Is it an airborne disease? Or is it because of the wrong food that we are having, or not hygienic food? What is the cause of the typhoid?
See, the cause of typhoid CK is very clear cut. First is having unhygienic food or stale food, or getting exposed to the kind of food we tend to take or tend to bring from the market and we don't wash it properly. So fecal oral route, you can say, is one of the factor from where the transmission of the bacteria happens. If somebody, for example, is a restaurant owner, is already having a typhoid and can be a chronic carrier of the typhoid bacteria as well, so he or she might not be having any indicators. So, but if unhygienic protocols are being followed there, so hands are not washed properly and the veggies are not washed properly, it tends to happen that the transmission of the bacteria happens to the other individuals who are consuming that particular food. So it is a fecal oral route basically which happens, and the contamination can happen via food, it can happen by water, or you can say any kind of fluid intake. It is not airborne for sure, but the main thing is to follow the hygiene protocol. That is very important.
I think you have emphasized this point quite emphatically, that the hygiene of yourself and the right quality of food you have to take. And you also mentioned some tips like washing the vegetables and soaking them before you actually start, storing them in your refrigerator. So I have a question related to that, and that question is about you when you soak your fruits and vegetable, is it the plain water that you're supposed to soak, or you need to add some additive like salt or something like that, or plain water is sufficient to kill the bacteria?
May I answer the question? Acha. Uh, yes. So, CK, first is to pre-soak your veggies and fruits for 30 odd minutes. It can happen in the normal water as well as in the RO water. But considering the kind of water pollution level is there in your own city, for like in Shimla, the water is of very good quality, to be very frank, and in fact, it is applicable in all the hills area. So, just soaking the veggies in normal RO water will suffice the need. It will not kill the bacteria, but it can happen that if you wash it properly, it tends to take off the pathogens from that particular thing. But considering the metro where the water pollution and air pollution is on real high, so I'll not recommend, because that water source can be one of the reason for the transmission of the typhoid as well. So I'll recommend people have ROs at their home. If they don't have, just lukewarm the water a little bit. Soak your veggies and fruits for maybe 10 odd minutes if it is a lukewarm water, and then you can rinse it off nicely in the water and just store them.
Thank you for this very important tip, Dr. Pooja. And I think the last question that I have is about drinking a lot of pulses and soups. And you also mentioned a little bit non-vegetarian. If they can, if vegetarians are there, they can have a moong dal. And if non-vegetarians are there, they can have the light soups based on their choice. So why moong dal? Is there a logic behind only moong dal? Why not any other dal?
Yeah. That's a very good question, CK. That's a very good question, CK. Why I normally insist a lot on moong dal is, first is that it is a very economically viable option for all these starters. Secondly, it takes hardly any time to cook. Very easy preparation is there of the same. It is very high in protein content also. It's easily digestible. You don't feel bloated after having moong dal. If you compare it with the other dals in which the content is little high of the amino acids as well, so the individual tends to feel the bloatedness. But with the moong dal, the digestion is very easy. I think it is very taste friendly for the Indian tongue as well, and it tends to provide the instant energy also. And the preparation time is hardly anything. So even if somebody is living alone in a metro, they can do it by themselves rather than going for the synthetic options of the soup. It is very easy to make, a very good source of, you can say, essential elements and protein levels that we require, and it is very light. Very, it takes hardly any time to get digested in the body.
I think, friends, we don't have to get scared if we are diagnosed with typhoid, because as doctor said, we have to change our diet a little bit. We have to be very careful with our hygiene, and we have to shift to a diet which is easily digestible. So, Dr. Pooja, thank you so much for coming to our show and explaining this very beautifully, very nicely to people in very easy to understand steps about this deadly disease. So thank you so much.
Thank you, CK. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
And we will catch up next time again with some other medical tips in the next show of Doctor Speak. Until then, I like to say goodbye. Modi inaugurated another application from Government of India called e-Rupee, which stands for E-RUPI. What is so special about this application that the entire top brass of the financial world is going gaga about? We want to analyze for ourselves. We will also discuss what is the basic difference between e-Rupee and UPI or Bheem payments. So friends, I'll be taking a very short break for some promotional messages, but I'll be joining back with this analysis. So friends, don't go anywhere. I'll be back soon. Friends, have you ever wondered that making a lasting impression online is similar to landing on the moon? If yes, we have a solution for you. Akulmach Genius program will help you prepare for your upwards trajectory towards success in the digital world. Our program consists of 12 unique tailor-made sessions of 1 hour each, spread over 6 weeks. Akulmach Genius program provide you practical knowledge about how to optimally use online video platform with lights, action, camera, as well as crash course in using virtual screens. The program also includes a session on the grooming and online etiquettes, which are important for running your online sessions and webinars. At the end of the program, our participants would be allowed to make their own videos, which will be published on a very popular business channel called Akulmach Live. This will provide global recognition to all our participants. If you like what you hear, then using the link in the description below, join the program straight away or visit www.akulmach.com and click on Genius Program to know more. Welcome back, friends. Taking the first step towards having a digital currency in India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched an electronic voucher-based digital payment system called e-Rupee, E-RUPI, yesterday. The platform has been developed by National Payments Corporation of India, NPCI, in partnership with Department of Financial Services, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and National Health Authority. This is a person-specific and purpose-specific payment system. It is so unique. But how does this e-Rupee work? E-Rupee is a cashless and contactless digital payment medium which will be delivered to mobile phone of the beneficiaries in the form of SMS or a QR code. This will essentially be like a prepaid gift voucher that will be redeemable at specific centers without any credit card, debit card, mobile app, or internet banking. e-Rupee will connect the sponsors of the services with the beneficiary and the service provider in a digital manner without any physical interface. Now the big question is how these vouchers will be issued. The system has been built by NPCI on its UPI platform and has already onboarded banks that will be the issuing authority. Any corporate or government agency who wish to utilize these e-vouchers will have to approach the partner bank, which are both private and public sector lenders, with the details of specific person and the purpose for which the payment has to be made. The beneficiary will be identified using their mobile numbers, and a voucher allocated by the bank to the service provider in the name of the given person would be issued and be delivered to that person only. So what are the use cases where all this e-Rupee system can be utilized? e-Rupee is expected to ensure a leak-proof delivery of welfare services. It is also be used for delivering services under schemes meant for providing medicines and nutritional support under mother and child welfare schemes, tuberculosis eradication programs, drugs, and diagnostic under schemes like Ayushman Bharat, child welfare schemes, and fertilizer subsidies, etc. The government also said that even the private sector can leverage these digital vouchers as a part of their employee welfare and corporate social responsibility programs. And as you know, friends, CSR is a big thing. Nearly all corporates spend about 10% of their profits into CSR activities across India. What is the significance of e-Rupee and how it is different than the digital currency? Well, the government is already working on developing a central bank digital currency, and the launch of e-Rupee would be potentially the highlight or highlighting the gaps in digital payment infrastructure that will be necessary for the success of the future digital currency. In effect, e-Rupee is still backed by existing Indian rupee system as an underlying asset, and specifically for its purpose makes it different to a virtual currency and put it closer to a voucher-based payment system. The Reserve Bank of India had recently said that it has been working towards a phased implementation strategy for central bank digital currency, or CBDC. We will make a specific fully dedicated video in future to explain CBDC very soon. But for now, I think this is very exciting because now India has taken one step closer to having its own digital currency, completely supported by the Central Bank of India. And this e-Rupee is very exciting because now the sponsorer or the donors will exactly know how the money is being utilized, and the beneficiary is also named in this system. So friends, do write in your comments on this one. And I'm very excited about these changes that the Modi government is doing. with regard to engaging new ways of deploying the digital currency systems in India. So friends, I will end my video here and look forward to your comments. Hello friends, this is Chandra from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome to Top Brass. Today, Mr. Trump is arriving in India, and there has been a lot of conversation around what kind of deals that India and US will talk about. And although there has been a long sort of a stalemate situation between these two countries where the trade deals are not going through because both parties are sticking to their guns. In fact, both countries have their interests, and both of them are guarding their interest. For instance, the US wants India to have zero import duty on mobile devices. So obviously, it's a big deal. It's a big consumer market for mobile, and Indian government cannot allow that to happen because there is a huge mobile initiative in India, which is Make It in India, and there are more than 200 mobile manufacturing companies. So Indian government has to also ensure that the local businesses also not have any disadvantage because of the treaty with United States. So there could be other things also, and while those things will take time to sort out, and as people say in business, give some, take some. So I think that will take some time to iron out. However, there are ongoing business which India and United States can still talk about during this trip. I think one of the major item on the table is the defense deals. Right now, Russia is the India's largest ally with regard to defense, and obviously United States can also play a role there. So I think there is no stopping that kind of a deal between India and United States during this trip of Trump to India. Second thing is the issue of China supporting Pakistan with arms and armaments and other support. I think that may also come up as one of the issue. The third could be the effect of Taliban, specifically when United States forces will be withdrawing this year from Afghanistan. So what Taliban will do and how to counter that threat or how to control them, that could be the third issue. So there could be items to discuss which are of the bilateral nature, the treaties to made and sign off. Just before the trip, there was a big chopper deal between India and United States, where the chopper deal was signed up. So like that, there could be 4 to 5 new agreements that can come out after this trip of Trump to India. And while we look at a bigger deal in future once the issues are ironed out, I think one of the major deal that can also come through in this trip is the nuclear reactor deal, because India wants to buy a few nuclear reactors and the United States can provide. So I think he is landing today in India, and I think there is a huge program gala celebration being planned called Namaste Trump, and we all look forward to seeing that gala event. As always, I will see you tomorrow again with more news. Bye bye.
Hello friends, welcome to Akulmach Live. I am Kanchan Verma, and today in this series we will be discussing about great rishis of India, as we had been discussing from last weeks. So stick around to this episode till the end, and I'll be meeting you after a break. Let's listen what our sponsor says about it.
This video is sponsored by Performance Works International.
Are you ready for the challenges facing the modern workplace? Recent events have taught us the importance of transformation. Businesses now face a perfect storm of challenges. No business is too big to fail, and many are too slow to succeed. Our workforce is changing fast. We're entering a new age of empowerment, and everyone can contribute. The Inner CEO reveals how we can all play a part in making leading at all levels a reality. Written by Jeremy Blaine, an expert on business transformation and growth, it provides a roadmap to help everyone unleash their inner CEO and contribute beyond their job role, whatever their level. Traditionally, strategy has been owned by the few. Now it's time for the many to contribute. Leadership must come from a broader base. Everyone has the potential to step up and make things happen. It's a new model of collective and collaborative leadership which unleashes the power of people, enabled by appropriate technology and a supportive management structure. The book provides a roadmap for a bold new age of empowerment. Supported by a range of resources, the book provides a toolkit to help anyone unleash their inner CEO. Organisation health, development and growth is owned at all levels. Are you ready to unleash the inner CEO?
Welcome back, and today in this series we are discussing about one of the greatest rishi of India. And what can I tell about him? He is a king who became a great sage. Yes, we are talking about Rishi Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra was not a Brahmin by birth and was a great warrior. He was a Kshatriya king named Kaushika, and as he was descendant of sage Kusha, Vishwamitra competently ruled the kingdom of his kingdom for many years, and before he finally gave up everything and went on to become a saint. Now, I have not seen any king in the history who has left his kingdom everything and became a king, became a sage. I mean. You may say that that Ashoka the Great is one king who left being active king and also adopted Buddhism. But what I feel is that he never left his kingdom. He maintained his army. So in case if you have any name in your mind, you can comment on the comment box and let me know if you have any idea, any king who left willingly and became a saint, a king. Now, moving forward, Vishwamitra is one of the respected sage in ancient India. As per the Holy Puran, there have been only 24 rishis who have understood the Gayatri month, and it is believed that sage Vishwamitra is supposed to be the first one. Now, talking about the Gayatri month is regarded as the highest and most powerful Hindu prayer. Brahma Rishi Vishwamitra is said to have found the sacred Gayatri month. It is verses from the Sukta of Rig Veda, and the Gayatri is the name of Vedic meter in which the verses are composed. So anybody who has not very profound knowledge of literature, I think it will be very difficult to really compose and understand the Gayatri month. He is also credited as the author of majority of portion of Mandala 3 of Rig Vedas. Ramayana, as everybody knows, Vishwamitra is the preceptor of Lord Ram and his brother Lakshman. He gave his powers to all these brothers, knowledge of celestial weaponry, or we can say Dev Shastra, and trained them in advanced religion, taught them how to kill powerful demons like Tarka, Marich and Subahu. Moving forward, Vishwamitra is featured in many legends and different work of a Hindu religion. They mention Vishwamitra as one of the most powerful, most charismatic king as well as saint. It is said that Vishwamitra sage created parallel heaven known as Trishanku Swarga for King Trishanku. When the proud King Trishanku asked his guru Vashishta to send him to heaven in his own body, the guru responded that the body cannot ascend to heaven. Then King Trishanku asked Vashishta 100 sons to send him to heaven, and sons, outraged that Trishanku came to them and refused after the refusal of his father, and caused him to become a demon, or in Hindi we call Chandal, or untouchable. Trishanku was transformed into person with the body of ash, clothes in black and wearing a iron jewelry. And when he went back to his kingdom, none of his subjects really recognized him, and he was driven out of the kingdom. So sad, right? But then he really came across sage Vishwamitra, who agreed to help him. Vishwamitra organized a great sacrifice ritual propitiating the devas, pleading that at least you accept this is a nice king. I would like to send him to heaven with the body. But no way devas responded, and Vishwamitra became very angry, and by using his yogic powers and other sacrifices and other rituals, he ordered Trishanku to go to heaven. And miracle to surprise to everybody, that Trishanku rise to heavens, and he kept flying in the sky until he reached to heaven, where he was pushed back by Indra. And by this whole incident, Vishwamitra really became very angry, and he said that if you can't provide Trishanku the heaven, I will create my own heaven, which will be known as Trishanku heaven. In fact, he also said that I will be creating another Brahma. And he had only completed the universe when the Brahaspati, who is the guru of Devtas, all gods, ordered him to stop. Trishanku, however, did not enjoy Trishanku Swarga. He remained fixed in the sky and was transformed into constellation. But in whole process of creation and the work of Vishwamitra, Indra got really frightened by his power, and he wanted to break his meditation. He wanted to curse him. So finally he sent Menaka to lure him and break his meditation. Menaka was born during the celestial churning of seas by Devtas and Demon, and was one of the most beautiful celestial fairy in the world, with quick intelligence, innate talent, but desired a family. You see, family is, everybody desires a family. It is ultimate goal in many spheres. So she successfully breaks the meditation of Vishwamitra. However, she fell in love with him, and a baby girl was born called Shakuntala. And later she grew in the sage Kanva's ashram, and Shakuntala, again fell in love with the king Dashwant. And with this union, the child was born by the name of Bharat, and it is said the Bharat name is being named by the King Bharat, who ruled a vast area of this subcontinent. Going forward, Vishwamitra had faced many numerous difficulty along his journey towards becoming Brahma Rishi. He controlled his anger, he mellowed down, he freed himself from the greed, jealousy, anger, and other negative emotion. Once Brahma also became very happy about his gesture. And it is said that once one Brahmin tried his level best to bother him and make him angry, but Vishwamitra remained calm, smiling throughout, and thus proving that he had gained complete control over his emotion and passion. He continued his intense sadhana, his work for many years, until one day Brahma really appeared before him, and Brahma was so pleased that he said that Vishwamitra, you are now Brahma Rishi, and this is a title which is being given by Brahma, who is the creator of the world. Now, Vishwamitra always wanted to become a Brahma Rishi, and he worked towards that. And he has like a competition kind of feeling with Rishi Vashishta. And later on, Rishi Vashishta also appeared before him, and he said, Vishwamitra, indeed, you are a Brahma Rishi. So finally, he is declared as a Brahma Rishi, or we can say Raj Rishi. After facing thousands of massive problems, Vishwamitra was conferred the title of Brahma Rishi by both Brahma and Rishi Vashishta. However, Vishwamitra possesses a lot of compassion about many things of all being, and he is always willing to help everybody, and always willing to exhaust all his punya, all his work to gain which he gained from his tapas to help other people. Following the attainment of the status of Brahma Rishi, he was also known to use his tapas to help anybody, everybody, whenever it's required. And his contribution is really immense. He is equally, when we say his contribution, and I think it will be very important to name few of his sons, like Madhu Chanda, who composed the shloka of Rig Vedas, and other son Sushruta, he is considered as the father of plastic surgery. And there's countless contribution of Vishwamitra and his family in the development of mankind, in helping of the mankind. He is, or he was, a Brahma Rishi. He is a Raj Rishi, and also he has a place in the traditional Hindu astronomy 7-star, or we call Saptarishi. So I would like to end this episode by saying that we are immensely happy, and it is a proud to discuss about Rishi Maharishi Vishwamitra. We'll be meeting again with another Rishi in this episode. Till then, bye bye, and you take care.
Hello, friends. This is Chandrakant from Akulmach, and I welcome you all to this very interesting subject that we want to discuss today. It's about colonizing other planets. And to discuss this matter further, let me invite my friend from UK, Mr. Naval Gund.
Good morning, CK. Colonizing other planets. Elon Musk says by 2060, 1 million people will have been taken to Mars. So what's that going to look like? Mars is several billion miles away, and we're not going to get there overnight. This isn't like, jumping on a plane and nipping around the globe. What's it going to look like? What do you think?
Well, first of all, getting there is a big challenge as of now, as we see it. But I think a lot of development is going on right now, where you can get to Mars in less than a week. I mean, it's all question of propulsion. If you have a faster propulsion, you can get there faster. And since the current technology, we don't hear about it, so that is why our assumption is that it will take 8 months, 6 months to reach Mars. The idea of SpaceX is that they want to send 1 million men and women to Mars on a no return basis. That means there are no return tickets. All you have to do is get there, establish yourself, build a colony for yourself. There'll be no material provided. You can't take anything from Earth like cement or food or anything like that. No luxuries. So you have to build your cities, build your roads, and build your food, create your food. So I think these are the big challenges that first settlers will have to face. And of course, uh, they will also reproduce. They will have byproducts of their own genetic material, and they have to put those little beings into schools. So I think
Exactly. The byproducts are gonna be babies, basically, and that's what the human race is all about. It's about projection and improvement, and certainly that settlement will need a new army coming through. They'll need rules, regulations. There'll be governance. I'm not too sure there'll be roads, to be honest with you, CK. I mean, maybe they'll just be, hovering around all over the place. There won't be roads. There'll be directions, and there'll be robots taking you here, there, and everywhere. But it's a fascinating concept, isn't it? When you start to look at what would these teenagers, let's project another few years beyond the first colonization. And it's going to look, let's just say it's going to look something like your background. There's going to be a colony. I mean, it's going to be enclosed. Maybe it's got its own environment, because Mars is a pretty nasty, toxic environment, as we keep being told. But we need to assume that an Eden type project is underway. And then these young adults, really, these teenagers, 14, 15 years old, are going to be toddling off to school. Again, are they going to be going to school? I mean, who knows? What would school be? So let's just think about the subjects. What would they be taught at sort of teenage level, say 13, 14, 15-year-olds, the rebellious age of a teenager. And remember, they will have already gone on a few spacewalks. I mean, that's got to be a given, hasn't it? They're on another planet. They're away from everywhere. They're already contributing to society. They may even be tilling their own garden somewhere, growing carrots or space carrots or whatever we want to call them. So what type of education system are we going to look at there? Would it look like the system we've got today, where you've got physics taught separately from maths and chemistry and a foreign language and astrology? Although we don't teach astrology, do we? But I bet we'll be teaching astrology then. But certainly mathematics, certainly physics, because those will be probably the grounding, the foundation stones for these future scientists, because this is who they are. They're a new colony. They're in the middle of nowhere. And the next place is to go to the middle of nowhere else, really. Find a black hole. So come on, CK. I know you've got thousands of ideas bouncing through those ears. What do you think? What would an education system look like in 2074 on Mars?
Well, I just want to start my conversation by saying that instead of growing the space carrots, I think most likely the first settlers will be growing poo potatoes.
Potatoes. Okay, well, whatever. But they'll be
Right.
growing something. They'll be learning about food technology at a very early age, I expect.
Absolutely, and I think these are the two critical items that settlers will have to learn is how to grow, because there is no topsoil in on the Mars, so they have to find ways of developing a new topsoil, because the topsoil has been taken for granted on Earth because it's been around for billions of years. But you have to create a topsoil so that you can sustain the life, grow your vegetables, etc. And the second thing is the universal language of mathematics, because if you don't know mathematics, you can't really construct anything. So I think the second challenge these guys would have to face is to construct their buildings which can protect them from the nasty environment. As you mentioned, Neville, the oxygen levels are different. It's not breathable air on Mars. The gravity is 1/3 of Earth. To go to space from Mars is a lot easier than Earth. So with you can have space missions organized by schools every once in a year or so. It may be much easier to launch students on a scouting mission in the orbit on Mars. So I think the first thing they have to learn is to generate their own food, generate their water, generate their oxygen. For that, the life sciences is the key subject. And the second subject would be mathematics, so that they can construct their buildings.
Well, those are two huge subjects in themselves. And, let's remember that these young adults will have started like babies that we've got here. They'll be curious. They'll be encouraged to keep that curiosity, because space is the frontier. As the Star Trek says, space, the final frontier, Stardate, ... Captain Kirk on his travels. They are the future Captain Kirks. So when you think of what you see on a Star Trek mission, all of these people are huge intellect. They've also got access to huge computers, huge databases. All the analysis is being done for them. They just need to interpret what the analysis is. They need to work together as a team. So from a very early age, all of this team building that businesses here absolutely crave for will be taught as a matter of consequence. There won't be any thought process that it won't be taught. And it will be taught actually because we're going to be doing things together. As you mentioned, food technology is going to be absolutely paramount. So from a very early age, they will be working in teams. And they'll be specializing in certain elements of that team. So it will look, even from a 4-year-old's perspective, it will look very, very different to an education system here. I mean, will it be a system? Will parents have direct responsibility, as we do here, to bring up your own children? Or will it be the role of the community? So in other words, parents are just, the pods, you're just the transitional arena. And now it's the community that takes care of everybody. Even the parents, it's the community that's taking care of everybody. So it's a fascinating arena of what we would be creating, designing then. But now let's ask the question, why aren't we doing that now?
Well, Neville, I think in order to give better chances for the Homo sapiens or our civilization to succeed, we must have more than one option. So Earth is one of the options, and we must create another option, maybe multiple options. So if there are multiple options available, there is a better chance of survival. So I think we must colonize other planets within our solar systems, maybe Venus in future, Mars. And I think you must understand, or everyone should understand, that there will be mutation. So once the settlers go and settle on Mars, the species which evolve after a couple of generations will be different from the Earthlings. They will evolve differently. And you have actually raised a very pertinent question. Their education system will be totally different. I think after sorted out the issues related to food and construction, they have to also study material science, because Once you know how to construct buildings on Mars, you need to get the material, because you can't get the material from Earth. All these materials are readily available on Earth. We have rock, we have gravel, we have sand, and we take it for granted. But on Mars, we have only sand. How do we produce concrete? So then the third subject would be the material science. They have to use the local material to build their houses. But I must make a very important point here now. We are doing all these studies, and during the growing years, the student minds are channelized. There is a bunch of literature, there is a bunch of music, there is a bunch of games as part of their curriculum. And if those things are missing on Mars, the race will have a totally different outlook. Just imagine after a couple of generations, if they don't have any literature to teach. I mean, they can't teach literature because there is nothing locally available. They will have to borrow it from Earth. So until unless they build their history, there will be nothing called history lessons. There will be nothing like a literature or a poem. So I think there will be a very strong need to evolve new mechanism on Mars to channelize brain. Otherwise, they will go haywire.
I think you're absolutely right, and it's what we say. It's a balanced education system. Really, you should have some art, you should have some drama, you should have linguistics, because it makes you a rounder person. But the interesting thing is, you've mentioned all of the things that we're going to be needing in Mars, because Mars is not Earth. It's many, many miles away. And the point is, you can't just go to your local store and say, do you know what? I need a fish slice. I've run out of fish slices. You will need to adapt to the local arena. And this is the thing about the education system. It will be fit for the purpose of the day. So we will undoubtedly be teaching how that word is actually done. Okay, might be very different than it is today, but we will be teaching what's relevant for the growth of the community. And I was talking to some very interesting educators recently, and they were saying that's what needs to be done today. We need to be teaching what's relevant and useful for the growth of the individual and the community. And of course, the community they're talking about is Earth, because that's our physical boundary. But the community that people will be talking about on Mars will be what? It won't have those really narrowly defined arenas of what's on Earth. We do know there's a moon, we do know there's planets out there, but the thought process of actually physically traveling to them and teaching about that currently is somewhat remote. However, it will be a fact of life on Mars. As I said, they will probably have already been on their first spacewalk before they go to what we know today as secondary school. So it will be fit for purpose. And I think that's the key element here, fit for purpose.
Yes, Neville. In fact, having started this subject now, the new paradigm is now getting added to this whole subject. Imagine a situation where the first settlers will have a direction. They have a motive. They have to get blast off from the Earth. They have to travel 6 months in the space. Then they have to land, and then they have to start settling their buildings. They have to start setting up the society and so on, learn new things, etc. After a couple of generations, what will be the motivation of these people? For example, on Earth, it's a very clear motivation. It's the economy. Everyone for last 6,000 years is becoming part of a rat race, which is economy, and we call it rat race. Yep. What will happen on Mars? There'll be no money. There'll be no currency. How will these guys get paid for their labor? Because it's going to be all labor work for first few generations. Who will pay them? How they will generate revenue? I think these are the things which we do not have answers right now.
but there will be a thought process that it may not be the same as it is on Earth, but there will be some similarities. So the similarities, imagine we need to remember that these are the very first settlers, a bit like the first settlers in the Wild West. Mars is just as far away from their home country. I mean, that's how different we are today. I remember my parents moved from Leeds to London in 1960, and that's the equivalent of moving from London to Sydney now, because it would take just about the same amount of time, and you're that far away. However, we're this connected. In 1960, there was no internet. There's no video conferencing. Most people, if they had a phone, it was a dialed phone that took at least 50 seconds to actually physically go, to dial anywhere. And there wasn't this automatic calling around the world, but we've progressed as a society, as a community, massively. And that's what these people will be doing on Mars. But they'll be working as a community. Everyone will have a role. Everyone will have a place. Because every person on that planet will need to be fed and watered. So you are taking up resources. And now the whole concept of life as we know it, Jim, going back to the Star Trek reference, it's not life as we know it, Jim. And that's going to be the interesting thing, isn't it? But I'd like to make a comment about what's happening today. We do have these remote communities. We are exporting our education systems into areas where children are desperate for education. There are no jobs, so they really want to be entrepreneurial. These are the new, food technologists, the bioscientists in their local area. So why wait to experiment on Mars? Why don't we do it now? And I don't think that there's anywhere on Earth we're doing it now.
I think it will be slightly different than experimenting on Earth, because, as you mentioned, that going from Leeds to London few years back is equal to going from London to Sydney. But going to Mars is slightly different. There will be internet. We will be connected. That is given and for sure. But the problem with that mode of communication is that it'll be at almost like 40 minutes delay. So if I ask you a question on an arena like this, you will hear it only after 40 minutes because Mars is so far off. Even with the speed of light, the signal travels. So I think these settlers will have to evolve separately, and they have to fend for themselves. The help will arrive from Earth, but it'll take a couple of days. And even advices, even any sort of advice that the Earthlings can give the Martians will be 40 minutes delayed. And by the time they can take action. So nothing is instantly available as a help to Martians in those days. So I think that is going to evolve as totally different, in a different paradigm, not like Earth. That is why I'm raising these pertinent questions. How the economy would be. Will they form their own economic methods? We have a taxation system. Will they evolve something else? We don't know. Education, for example, education will totally, they don't need to study what we study on Earth. They need to study something else which is relevant for them. So I think these are the things that we need to answer. First settlers have a very clear target. They need to get there and build their roads. But I think generations after that will be slightly confused. They have to evolve. So I think they will become part of the evolution process.
Oh, you're absolutely right. But as we're saying, this is where the education system is fundamental to that, because we need to be teaching what's relevant for the environment. And equally, we need to have laws relevant for the environment. We need to have lawmakers relevant for the environment. When we're on Mars, every person there is using resources. You know, the first settlers will be breathing what we're breathing, you know, because otherwise they'll die. We're not gonna change our appearance that much in this short period of time. So we will need to be breathing in air similar to we have today. But apart from that, everything else would need to change. So I think that the message that I would have today is your environment. What are you doing to make sure that your environment is what you need to have your environment to be? So from a business owner, are you doing everything you need to be doing to make sure your business succeeds? Because you're using the resources of your business. I mean, that's you might call it income today. So equally, are we using the resources of the planet? And individually, we need to be asking that. I'm not talking about, you know, the climate issues that we've got around the world, but fundamentally, everything that we do here either shortens, lengthens, or keeps the life of the planet the same. And I think we should be asking those questions today, frankly, not for what's going to happen on Mars. I think we should be asking the questions of, is everything around me fit for purpose today? Should I be getting rid of my petrol or diesel car and going electric because that's the right thing to do? Whether you can afford it or not, that's a separate issue. But the thing is, we need to be assessing where we are today. What is our position today? And if we were to create and go and help a very remote village in India, in anywhere in Asia, Africa, what would we be doing to help them? How would we be structuring that help? Remembering that we're only there for a short period of time, and it's them that have to live there. It's the self-sufficiency of their local community. What would we be doing? What would we be teaching? What knowledge would we be transferring into those areas? And when we start to ask those questions, the answers may be tough to come up with, but they'll be the right answer. And I think this is where we can start today. And by thinking of Mars, you know, what's going to happen on Mars? Where are we going to go after Mars? What's that community going to look like? Will indeed parents be parents as we know them today? Who knows? But as they say in certain old proverbs, it takes a village to raise a child.
Absolutely, Neville. I think this is a very interesting subject, and I would request viewers to, engage with us, send their comments, and there could be many things that we have not discussed. I think it's a huge subject. Maybe, as Neville is suggesting, that we must try in our own environment. Like you said, if there is a village, we need to make them self-sufficient. It could be a good experiment for all of us to prepare ourselves to Mars. And obviously, the first settlers will not be left alone. We have to, support them. They are going there for the humanity, for the cause of humanity. So I think these are certain things that we need to, discuss as a common society. And I request viewers to engage with us, send their comments, and we will bring you live with Neville Gund in the next episode of our discussion. So thank you so much, Neville, for today.
My pleasure, CK. And come on, folks, let's create our own little village. Let's have our village discussion and see just exactly where this village takes us.
Thank you so much, Neville, and we will catch up next week with you once again on something more interesting.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Akulmach Live, and I'm Chandrakant. This video is sponsored by Performance Works International. More about them in a bit. Have you ever wondered that you're working as a chief executive, C-suite executive, and your team does not respect you? It is a very big question, and I want to give you 5 ideas, 5 recipes to solve this problem. Also, we will understand why this is happening, why your team members, your employees do not respect you. So the first reason is that you have set your expectations from yourself very, very high. And you have created a sort of an image around yourself that, you can accomplish anything. And that leads to some sort of unrealistic expectations from your team. They think that you have answered to everything. You are a senior member, you are the team leader, you are a vice president or a chief executive officer, and you can do miracles. You are a wonderful person. And what happens is when you actually sometimes do not achieve what your employees perceive you to achieve, then obviously the respect level will slightly reduce, because they thought that you are a superhuman, but it turns out that you are just a human like them. So I think the first thing that you should do as a team leader, as a boss, is to never set unrealistic expectations from you. I mean, if you could do everything, then why you need your people, So the very fact that you are hiring a team means that obviously you cannot do everything. That is why you're hiring experts, you are conducting interview, you are doing background checks, and you select the right team which is capable of working towards the goal for which you are also working. So you are one part of a team which you have handpicked, selected, and you should never create an expectation that you are a superhuman, so that the people start looking at you as if as a piggyback sort of a thing, that hey, if I can't achieve anything, I will go to the boss and he will be able to do it. So this kind of thing is very, very risky, and that is why I'm bringing this point as first, because many of my industry colleagues commit this mistake by transforming themselves into superhuman, and they actually create an aura in the organization that you're the boss, you can accomplish everything, and you have answer for everything. So that is the point number 1. Point number 2, why your employees may not respect you or give you a proper respect, because you feel that your designation brings the power and authority. You are called vice president and you are called a president or a CEO. Automatically, your designation should bring certain level of respect. And if this is what your idea is, then obviously people, who doesn't want to get that respect? If you are a manager in the company, the manager also expects that automatically, since I'm the manager, I should get that respect. If I'm a vice president, I should get that respect. So nothing comes in this world automatically. You have to live up to it. You have to, as people say, you have to earn the respect. So the designation will not bring any respect automatically to you until unless you show to the team that you are out there, you are helping them, you are not creating an authoritative environment, you are not misusing the power, and you are just like a normal human being, and since you are the team leader, you are actually leading from the front. And if you are able to do that, lead the business pursuits from the front, then obviously you start demanding respect. In fact, you don't have to even demand respect. It will be given to you automatically. You will see that if you lead the team from the front, a lot of your team members will respect that, and they will know that you have the capability and you are not merely a title. You have the capability of doing things and you can do it on your own. So my advice is that whenever you are leading a team, you should not carry a team target on your head. You should actually carry two targets on your head. One is your individual target, and other will be your team target. So your target will be cumulative of your individual target and your team target, so that you have something to showcase also to your team, to your peers, to your bosses, and to yourself. And this is one method of you can not become very authoritative, and you actually showcase, you have an opportunity now to showcase that, hey, I'm managing this account on my own, I don't need any help from my team. And you divide the territory into teams and let them do their individual responsibility. So I think that's one method which I thought I'll share with you. And this is number 2. The team may not respect you if you are misusing your designation, your title, which is just merely a title. Number 3 reason is you actually use scare tactics. You do not empower your team members, and you use this scare tactics. That means if somebody comes back to you with a problem, you're always, there are 2 methods in which you can react. One is, since you have set up the expectation as per point 1, that you have answered to everything, you have set up that expectation that, this person I have hired as a manager in my team, he should know the answer. So why he's coming to me? Number 2 is you can get annoyed, and you then start screaming, shouting, or even if you don't scream and shout, you create an environment which is using the scare tactics, that if you go and annoy this boss of mine, then I will have to bear the consequences. So this is one area which you need to rectify. Never use scare tactics as the management as a management skill. It is not advisable. And as far as possible, empower your employees. I'll tell you exactly why this is important. When you actually hire a team, or if the team is given to you, you will actually interview each and every person in your team, and you will select that, okay, this person can work for me for this job, this person can do this job, and so on and so forth. So you have a team which is based on your interview, your selection process, your ideas, how you want your team target and your individual targets to be achieved. And for that, you have a team which you have selected. Now, once you have done this due diligence, and then after that, you don't trust your team, you do not empower, then the whole idea of selecting your team goes for a toss. It's a wasted effort. So I think that is why you should never get into scare tactics, and you should always have empowerment given to your employees, because you have hired them for this activity so that you can do something else. If your team can handle things without you being watchful or doing things like that, then you can do something else, something more positive, something more strategic in nature. So that this is a point number 3. Point number 4 is about the promises, and this subject is related to actually building trust with your team. So if you make a promise, you should never break that promise. And when your team says that, hey, you made the promise and you never follow through. So, for example, if you made a promise and then you forget about it in your mind, but your employees will not forget about it, because you have made that promise and you're also not following up. That means you made a false promise, and after a few days, your employee knows, but you don't even follow through. So I think it is about building trust with your team, so that when you promise something, whether it is related to their finances or even helping them with their work, you have given them a target. Sometimes they may turn towards you asking for help, some sort of idea, and you say, okay, I will provide you some sort of support, and then you forget about it. That is a very, very wrong thing to do. I will give you one example. Now, one of your team member is working in an account, and the CEO of that account happens to be your personal friend. So your employee, your manager thinks that, hey, if I actually leverage the relationship between you and the client's CEO, that will help the manager close the deal faster. So he will approach with that kind of a help to you, asking that, hey, can you put a word so that I can do, go ahead and do my sale. Now, you may have different ideas, you may have something else in your mind, and suppose you say, yes, I will connect you with this person so that, you go and close the deal. But you forget about it, and you don't even consider this as an important activity. And this has nothing to do with the employee's finances. This is just helping your organization close deals with another organization, which your employee thinks strategically in his mind, but you have forgotten about that after you have made that promise. So I think this is something very, very important. The people will stop trusting you, and also stop not respecting you if you actually break your promise, and also even if you make promise and do not follow through. So whenever you make promise, always follow through. It is a good practice not to make too many promises until unless you are very sure. You can always take time. Suppose somebody asks for something, you can always say that, hey, I will get back to you. Let me get back to you, and give me some time to think over it. Leave the idea with me. You can always say that rather than making a promise and then forgetting about it and not following through. So this is something which is absolutely important, and it is related to trust. And since we're talking about trust, you are a sort of a boss who never trusts his team. You have an idea that you have a certain style of working. Because you have done things in life, you have a lot of experience, certain thing works, certain thing doesn't work. You already have that preconceived mind, and you may be right also about it. But when you've hired a team, because you can't be everywhere, you can't be omnipresent, you can't work like a god. So that is why you're building your team, so that you can spread out and you can do much more strategic things. But in your mind, you think that your team is always doing something wrong. Your team is always taking wrong steps. You do not have any trust on your team. In the previous example, I was talking about building trust from the other way. That means your employees start trusting you. In this one, you don't have trust on your team. Now, this is after having hired the person. That means you have gone through the background of this person whom you have hired, and now you don't trust these people. You always have this idea, oh, these guys are doing something wrong. Even if you don't know, you have this idea lingering in your mind in the background that something must be going wrong somewhere. And that is why you don't have a trust. So I think this is something which is, again, the most important, which I kept it for the last, because having trust on your team is absolutely important. Once you have hired them, once you have given them a task, leave the task with them, because you may have experience, you may know the solution of that problem, you may know the process, you may also know how to get it. But since you have a team, let them do it their way. And you help them. You can give them small advices, but don't interfere, because each person will have his own method of achieving the task. And you have, you basically give them empowerment. You also give them your trust, so that team member will feel that, you don't become you're not a micromanager. This is a very, very difficult subject, and we are not covering this micromanagement in this video today. But this is sort of a micromanagement syndrome, where you always think in your mind that your team is doing something wrong somewhere, And if I do it on my own, then I can do it in 3 days. I think that is not the way it should work. You should empower your team. And that way, when the team sees that you have empowered them and you're not interfering, you are leaving them, they will also get, they will also start thinking in a very pragmatic way that, I have to get this thing done because my boss has given me everything. He has empowered me. Now I have to achieve it. So these are the 5 points which I thought I will bring it to you. Very, very important. Very, very important, especially today, in today's world, when people are moving towards digital platform and you don't get to even see your employees. You're connected through them, through their digital media, and you always have this question running in your mind, hey, what my team is doing. So I think these are the 5 steps which will help the C-suite, chief executives, managers, vice presidents, and presidents. This is basically for people who are managing these teams. If they do these 5 tips that I've given, they will be very successful in gaining the trust and respect of their team. So friends, before I go, I like to give a big thanks to Performance Works International for sponsoring this video. Actually, their support helps us make these informative and knowledge-based videos. So in the end, a word from them.
This video is sponsored by Performance Works International.
Are you ready for the challenges facing the modern workplace? Recent events have taught us the importance of transformation. Businesses now face a perfect storm of challenges. No business is too big to fail, and many are too slow to succeed. Our workforce is changing fast. We're entering a new age of empowerment, and everyone can contribute. The Inner CEO reveals how we can all play a part in making leading at all levels a reality. Written by Jeremy Blaine, an expert on business transformation and growth, it provides a roadmap to help everyone unleash their inner CEO and contribute beyond their job role, whatever their level. Traditionally, strategy has been owned by the few. Now it's time for the many to contribute. Leadership must come from a broader base. Everyone has the potential to step up and make things happen. It's a new model of collective and collaborative leadership which unleashes the power of people, enabled by appropriate technology and a supportive management structure. The book provides a roadmap for a bold new age of empowerment. Supported by a range of resources, the book provides a toolkit to help anyone unleash their inner CEO. Organisation health, development and growth is owned at all levels. Are you ready to unleash the inner CEO?
Hello friends, this is Akulmach Live and I am Chandrakant. Jeff Bezos has successfully blasted off into the space and returned after a successful flight. And this success actually forces us to think what will be the future of space tourism. So I think this is a fantastic subject for our discussion. Before I start, I have to tell you, you can now get connected with our channel instantly by just pointing your camera from your mobile phone on this QR code. So friends, I'll be back after a short break. Don't go anywhere as an outstanding space odyssey is coming up right now. Welcome back friends. On April 12, 1961, Mr. Yuri Gagarin became the first human to go into space. That day, he saw the world in a way no human had seen before. Since then, only 560 to be precise, people have gone to space. Most of them have been trained astronauts who spent years preparing for this flight. But when will the rest of us will get a chance to go to space? And what will we do when we get there? In this video, we are going to look at the future of the space tourism. We are also going to look at the private astronauts who have paid to go to space. Also, reusable rockets that can help kickstart the space tourism industry. Since the beginning of the space flight, only 7 people have given money to go to space. And in 2001, the American entrepreneur Dennis Tito paid $20 million US dollars for 8-day trip to International Space Station. At that time, NASA thought it's inappropriate for tourists to go into space, so they refused to train him. Instead, he partnered with the Russians and took a ride on a Soyuz mission along with 2 other cosmonauts. He remembers the glorious moment when he first looked at the window and saw the curvature of the Earth against the darkness of the space. Dennis spent a total of 8 days on the International Space Station and conducted various experiments and admired the incredible view of the Earth. So far, number of visitors to space have been very, very small, but that may all change in near future. With many private space companies developing reusable spacecraft, the cost of spacecraft is starting to drop dramatically. The Blue Origin is developing its new Shepard spacecraft specifically for touring flights into space. The capsule has 6 seats with largest windows ever seen in any spacecraft. During these flights, the rocket will accelerate to about 100 kilometers altitude before cutting off the engine, releasing the capsule. At this point, the capsule is essentially in a free fall but still traveling upwards because of the momentum, and it will reach its highest point. The passengers will be able to leave their seats inside the capsule and experience the effect of weightlessness. A few minutes later, the passengers would return to their seat before the capsules enter the atmosphere, and effects of weightlessness would disappear. Although these flights are extremely short, reusability of the rocket could give customers the chance to experience the wonders of space for as little as US dollars 200,000. While this will still only satisfy the super rich, it is still a step in the right direction if the space flight has ever to achieve a price and safety standards of airliners. But as the industry grows and companies compete to develop the cheapest rides into the space, the price would drop even further. To each space vehicle that can be reused multiple times before it needs serious refurbishment, the customer would only need to cover the cost of the crew and the fuel. The airplane can fly several times per day and operate thousands of flights in its lifetime. If a rocket can reach even a fraction of these numbers, the space tourism could open up to a wider public. But developing cheap rides in space is only half the problem. In fact, the cost of space is incredibly expensive luxury. It costs NASA about almost $4 billion every year to run the International Space Station. After years of avoiding commercialization, NASA recently opened the ISS for the paying customers. But even with the exorbitantly high cost, ISS still is the destination for the wealthy. To pick up food and air during your stay on ISS will cost you about US dollars 22,500 per day. Once everything like electricity and Wi-Fi is included, night stay on ISS will cost you about minimum US dollars $35,000 per day. For space tourism to become a reality, the cost of building and operating a habitable space station would need to significantly reduce the cost of the space technology. There is a startup called Bigelow Aerospace is developing a large inflatable space station modules. These modules can be packed into rocket payload bays and inflated to much larger size when in space. The idea is that such large expandable modules will be perfect base for space hotels. Currently, ISS requires a huge team of people working 24 hours a day to keep the station running. Bigelow Aerospace is hoping to simplify the operations of these modules and reducing running costs. And since these are easier to manufacture, cheaper to launch than traditional space modules, they can completely reduce the cost of living in space. So although the idea of space tourism may seem like a distant fantasy even today, incredible advances in reusable rockets and space module could soon open the door to a new generation of explorer. So I look forward to your comments, friends. Do let us know what is your opinion about the future of space tourism.
Hello friends, I am Kanchan from Akulmach Technologies and you are welcome to our series, The Great Kings of India. We had been discussing about Ashoka the Great. We have done in last episode the overview of Ashoka and today we will be discussing about administration of Ashoka. Ashoka is a very interesting personality because at one phase of his life he is a tyrant and on the other phase of his life he has become a benevolent king, a father figure to his subject. To discuss more about this administration, this subject of Ashoka's administration, we would like to invite Professor Meeta Joshi, who is the head of the department of one of the prestigious college in Hyderabad, St. Anne's College of Women. So without wasting any further moment, I would like to welcome Professor Meeta Joshi. Welcome to the show, Meeta ji. How are you doing today?
Namaskar, Kanchan. I'm fine. How are you?
I am fine, Meeta ji. So, you know that we had been discussing about Ashoka, and I would like to hear more about the administration of Ashoka so that our viewers benefit and they should know how good administrator Ashoka was. So, we would like to know more about his personality and administration.
Okay. See, Ashoka's administration is very unique because it was influenced by the principles of Arthashastra. Arthashastra is an old text written by Kautilya or Chanakya. His original name was Vishnugupta. And Chanakya was the person who was the mentor of Chandragupta Maurya. And he was the person behind the fall of Nanda dynasty. After that, only Chandragupta Maurya could establish the Mauryan Empire. So, the administration of Ashoka is greatly influenced by the principles of Arthashastra because Vishnugupta's grandson, Sagar Gupta, was in the cabinet of Ashoka. Actually, Sagar Gupta was the person associated with Ashoka's father Bindusar, but Bindusar had an inclination towards his elder son, Sushil, and he wanted Sushil to become the crown prince. Total, there were 101 sons of Bindusar, it is said, but from all of them, he liked Sushil. And why he disliked Ashoka was because of his looks. Ashoka was not a very good-looking person. So when Ashoka was born, from that time only, he never liked Ashoka that much. Bindusar. Now, this Sagar Gupta has played a very important role in the coronation of Ashoka after the death of Bindusar, because when Bindusar was seriously ill, he called for his elder son Sushil, and he gave orders to Sagar Gupta. But Sagar Gupta deliberately he delayed the message to Sushil, and he called Ashoka instead, who was in Takshila that time. He was there to look after some civil war type of a thing. So Ashoka came, and finally Ashoka was coronated the king of modern empire after Bindusar. If you see, Ashoka very, very intelligently divided his empire into 4 provinces. They were Uttarpad and Dakshinapat, then Prachyapat and Avantiratha. So when you say Uttarpad, you can make out from the name, it was the northern province with its capital at Takshila. Then they had this western province, Avantiratha, with headquarters at Ujjain. After Avantiratha, the Prachyapatha, the eastern province, with its headquarters at Tosala, and finally Dakshinapat, with capital at Suvarnagiri.
Yes.
But
Yes,
Ashoka,
very big empire. So we all these provinces was having a capital to really work
yes,
in a good to have a good administration.
how much you can imagine that how much organized Ashoka was at that time. Okay, so he had his headquarters at Patliputra. Patliputra was his capital in Magadha, and from there he managed all the 4 provinces. Because Ashoka's empire was very vast, it went up to now your modern Pakistan, Iran, Bangladesh, all that area was covered under the Ashokan empire. So sitting at Patliputra, Ashoka had all the information about the entire empire through his network of spies. He had spies posted at every nook and corner of the empire, and any problem, any outbreak, civil outbreak, everything, any fear of invasions from outside, everything was reported to the king. So king was the head, Ashoka was the head of the administration. Then he had a council of ministers. Now these ministers, there were 3 important ministers. They were Rajuka and Rajuka, Yukta and Pradeshika. So Pradeshika are the people who are managing the provinces. Rajuka are there to survey and assess the land, because revenue was very important, land revenue, to run the empire. The entire empire was, majorly based on the revenues which were coming in from the provinces. That was the income of the modern empire. So Pradeshika, Rajuka and Yukta, these were the 3 main people in Ashoka's administration or council of ministers. Now if we see, we further see this, then Pradeshika was the in charge of overall administration of a district. So there was district, and the smallest unit was gram. Gram means the village. So that way, see, the administration was decentralized. King is sitting at Patliputra, but through his council of ministers, his team, he was able to look after the administration in a very, very organized and a disciplined manner. Both things were there. To keep the empire intact, such a vast empire, and to rule for 14 years without any, civil outbreaks or without any problems is an achievement. And Ashoka did that. See, he was a strategist, and after his conversion into Buddhism, he became more wise as a person. So he was managing both things, his spirituality and the administration. Now, if we see the revenue collection and the maintenance and assessment of land was done by Rajuka. He was the person in charge who would see all this revenue department, and the land was surveyed, it was assessed that which land is more fertile, from where you can take more revenue. So everything was classified very, very properly. Okay, then the local administration was like this. There was a unit of 5 to 10 villages together. So in those villages, there was one head who was taking care of these 5 or 10 villages, and the intermediate level of administration between the district and that of a village was done by this person. Okay, then the tax collector there was known as Sthanika, because he is localized to that place only. So he was known as Sthanika. And the village, as I told you, was the smallest unit of administration, and it enjoyed autonomy to a great extent. See the beauty of the administration, that he gave freedom to the village head to operate at it at his own level. The village were given autonomy, which you hear now. This word autonomy is more popular now, but just imagine in 261 BC, after the Kalinga War, when he was setting up his administration, he was very much aware about the autonomy.
Yeah, I think now we see that there's a village.
So, individual,
everything is there. When we have district head, so I think it is very similar.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
More or less the same. More or less the same. And then the individual village had their own set of officials under Gopa. Gopa was again an official who's under all these individual village heads. They were under this person known as Gopa. Okay, then Nagaraka, the city superintendent, was there, who looked after the law and order of the city. And under Nagarika, there was a Gopa Sthanika, who was the local person who used to maintain the law and order in the city. So, can you just see that king, then council of ministers, and then the other officials? So, it was a very, very well organized administration. Everything, each and every department was set up, and particular person was appointed the head of the department, like revenue department, provincial, civil administration. Everything was taken care of individually, and with the network of the spies, because the king was informed about every activity which was going on in his empire, so that he could suppress that then and there. See the beauty, that nothing was allowed to be big, any small discontent, or if the common public some discussions are going on, so the spies would immediately inform the king that this is happening. So immediately the king will take action and press a little outbreak which was going to happen. So this is the beauty of
Yeah, so what I feel is that he is a very he used to be very able administrator, but a part of this I think is very like of a benevolent king, and he acted as a father, because I have heard that he has put a stone carved with the directions that you should do this, you should not do this, for general public. So every day somebody is coming, something, a place like Chopal or something. So people are tend to, by default, reading those instructions every day. And in this, I think will gives a lot of impact to the subject, isn't it?
Yes, yes. And you, Kanchan, one thing which I forgot to mention is that before the Kalinga War, he was a very, very cruel and brutal king. Okay, because of his looks, he was not very good looking. So if in this Buddhist text Mahavamsha, it is mentioned, which is written in Pali language, it is mentioned that when he was in his palace and he was surrounded by his, because he has many wives, so when he was surrounded by women, so the woman hesitated to touch him because of his skin. It was so uneven. So he got all those women, executed. He said, you burned them alive. All these women, God put them in. He had a particular torture cell in which people were tortured. Okay. And then he took the title of Priyadarshi. Priyadarshi means who looks good. Okay. So it was only through his power. He was not very good looking. Okay. But through his power, he took that title Priyadarshi. Devanam Pri. Devanam Pri. Who is loved by gods. Okay. Chakravarti. Chakravarti means whose empire is very large and wide. Samrat, king. So all those titles he took. Because of this complex which he had, and because of which his father never liked him. Bindusar never liked Ashoka. He always gave more encouragement to Sushil, who was his elder son. Only because somehow Bindusar did not like his appearance, his strategies, though Ashoka was a very good military strategist. Okay, and when any outbreak was there, one time, for example, I will give you one example. When there was an outbreak in Takshila and Ujjain, so that time Bindusar ordered his elder son Sushil to go and suppress the rebellion. But he could not do that. He could not do that. Then he called Sushil back and sent Ashoka. And Ashoka was able to suppress the rebellion. So he was a very good military strategist. And he is also known for his army, because his army had 9,000 huge elephants. 9,000 huge elephants. Then there were horses, there were oxen, there were the cavalry, the people, soldiers who used to walk on foot. So his military was very organized, very organized. And with the help of the elephants, because when you are going for a war and you see a huge, group of elephants moving towards you, a person gets psychologically weak because they are so, giants. Right. So that was also a very intelligent move of Ashoka, that he used those elephants in his warfare. And whenever there was no war, all those elephants and his army, military soldiers, they had a training in the morning without fail after the sunrise. Yes. And now it was
today also we have daily trainings in armies, something like that.
And now the training was not to wage wars, it was only to protect the empire from the invaders.
Yes, it is after he became Buddhist. So he is keeping that army so that people around his kingdom or the kings around his kingdom should not have an idea that we can invade now Ashoka's empire.
Yes. So the army was, was there to guard the borders of the empire, to see that the common public in his kingdom was happy. And he had a very peaceful rule of 14 years. After the Kalinga War, he ruled for 14 years, and that rule was very much appreciated by the people. People were very happy in his rule because of his policies and his administration, because each and every minor thing was also addressed. Any common person, if he had a grievance, they were told to pass it to the Pradeshika, and the Pradeshika will pass it to the king. So that channel was there.
Yeah,
it was
great.
not that it was unaccessible. King was always accessible.
Yes, he's the king of people.
Yeah, he was the king of.
Yeah.
And another little story I want to tell you about him is that once upon a time, when he saw a Buddhist monk going, passing from near his palace, and he called for that monk. And when he called him inside his palace and asked that, who are you? Then he told that his name was Nigroth, and he happened to be the son of his elder brother, whom he got killed for the throne.
Okay.
He was Sushin's son. So when he heard that he is Sushin's son, then he got more, empathetic about him, because he had this guilt feeling that he killed his father.
Yeah.
Then he asked Nigroth to take any seat in his, court, and Nigroth climbed and sat on his throne.
Okay.
But Ashoka didn't get angry, or he didn't, show any signs of anger. He was happy. And it is said that after that, it was Nigroth who taught him all the Buddhist principles, and he told him more about Buddha. And then he got inclined towards Buddhism, because in the Buddhist text Mahavamsha and Deepvamsha, it is mentioned that when Buddha was visiting the empire of Magadha 100 years before the birth of Ashoka, so in that birth Ashoka met him when Buddha was there. And because Buddha was a bhikshu, he asked for this alms, and that time then Ashoka gave him some soil, mitti. He put it in his patra, the bhiksha patra. And then Buddha prophesied that time that after my death, 100 years, he will be born as Ashoka, and he will be a big ruler. He will rule the Mauryan Empire. So this was the prediction of Buddha, and it came true. And it is mentioned in the Buddhist text of Deepvansh and Mahavamsha.
Yes. So we have discussed about the administration, and we have touched the unique and crucial point of Ashoka's administration. So I'll just wind up this episode now, and we'll be discussing tomorrow about the army of Ashoka and how he has dealt, how he has maintained his army. So till tomorrow, you take care, have a good day, bye-bye.
Thank you, Kanchi.
Hello friends, welcome to Akulmach Live. I am Kanchan Verma. Today is 7th International Yoga Day. We'll be discussing about this particular day and the repercussion and the utility of Yoga Day in our episode today. Do you know that yoga is being developed by Indus Saraswati civilization around 5,000 years ago? And it is also said in the inscription that Lord Adi Shiva developed and invented this yoga. So we'll be discussing more about with our guest about this particular day. So stick around to this episode till the end. You will get more information and you will enjoy this episode. Welcome back, and today, as you know, we are celebrating a special day and we have a special guest on this episode, Ritu Gupta, who is a CEO of Four Seasons PR agency. So as you know, we are celebrating 7th Yoga Day today, International Yoga Day. So let us invite our guest today and ask what this day means to her. Welcome to the show, Ritu. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Kanchan, for welcoming to the show. And I'm absolutely feeling fine and feeling very fit because today is the yoga day. So I think it's one of the best days of my life that where I can get my mental tension away by doing yoga, especially today.
Well, you know that yoga practices has been, we Indians are following from very long time, from very antiquity. So how this really emerged as yoga? And you know, even today morning Prime Minister address and we are celebrating yoga for wellness. This is the theme of today's yoga day. So let us discuss about how it really started yoga and what is the importance of yoga in day-to-day life.
Kanchan, I think yoga is a very good wellness exercise, holistic exercise. And I personally feel that yoga is a mind and body practice that combine physical poses, controlled breathing, and meditation or relaxation. It reduces your stress, your mental tension, your blood pressure, and you know, it lowers your heart rate also. So when all these things happen, then definitely you have a very holistic attitude towards life. You naturally relax because all these problems, your heart blood pressure, your diabetes, your heart problem, definitely increases the stress. So when we do yoga, it controls all these problems, and slowly we get towards wellness of our body, and definitely we are stress free.
Well, you have mentioned very rightly that yoga helps in a holistic development and healthy well-being on day-to-day basis. Now, when we talk about yoga, and there are many asanas and many meditation techniques. So, do you really feel that schools in college and schools they are giving a proper attention to this art form so that our children grow up a healthy life in future?
Yes, I think it's a very good thing for young kids to start with. And these days, I get to know that many schools, they have on everyday basis, they have 40 to 45 minutes slot for yoga. So I think every child, even the children today, they have certain kind of anxiety issues. So that can be because of homework or whatever reason. But then it's a very good practice that they are inculcating in them. The schools, the government, the parents, they're inculcating in students to do yoga. So in today's time, in difficult time of pandemic, even I feel at home the students, they are doing yoga sessions, and you have all those yoga trainers available online. So I think it should be done because anyway yoga, even small kids, they can do. There are certain very basic asanas, and slowly they can move towards difficult asanas. So yes, the child should be told and about yoga.
You see, as you mentioned, that it's very essential for the well-being and for the development of human body. And yoga, I have read, it provides you not only physical wellness but also mental wellness. But there are some people who are against of yoga. So I would like to know your views. Are there's any scope of opposing yoga?
I don't think so. Anyone should be against of yoga. But yes, I feel that some people, when you have some kind of physical problem, you should consult the doctor first, because there are some asanas or you may do, and then you may have some kind of nervous problem, problem in nerves. So if you are overweight, first of all, it's a very good exercise to reduce weight also. Yoga is a very good practice. But then one should consult the doctor if they have any kind of doubt in the mind. Otherwise, it's very simple to do yoga.
Yes. So now, what is your favorite yoga? And I'm sure that you practice yoga on daily basis. So how you really get up and how you prepare yourself to do these exercises in the morning? Do you do exercise in the morning, or how it is?
Yes. See, the best time to do exercise, I get up early in the morning, and the best time to do exercise is, early in the morning. So what I do, my time, let's say between 6:30 to 7:30 is the time for yoga, and I do Bal Asana, which is a classic child resting pose. And this asana is also done in between various asanas. So in Bal Asana, it calms your mind, it releases you of stress and tension, and this pose also works as a great reliever for your back problem, for your spinal problem, and it calms the lower back and nervous system also. So it's a very simple asana. It is also known as child pose. It is done. It's a kneeling asana. It is usually practiced before and after Sirsasana.
Well, so I'm sure that many even international personalities are propagating yogas on various forums. Even our own Bollywood personality are kind of they have their own cassettes and books for yoga. So I think this is something very essential for well-being, and I think it should be practiced and should be taught from a very early age. But apart from this, I feel that. That yoga also give a sense of culture and traditional way of our Indian thinking. So, do you want to really speak about it? How it can help in being propagating Indianness and embracing the Indian culture and tradition?
Yes, see, in today's world, we all know that our Indian culture is very rich. It's a very ancient culture. It's a rich culture. So I think every school, first of all, they should have a kind of a lesson, a kind of a chapter in their syllabus about yoga. Kids should be told about yoga, and they should be made to do yoga in school. And also, they should